Chapter 7. About 3 months later, 2 days after Malachi's 53rd birthday, Michael had stayed another night with Angel. With this, they also had permission, from both of Mike's parents, to go on up to the Sandrocks the following morning. In total, this would be about the 10th time that the boys would tackle these hills together. Then, as 8 o'clock rolled around the following morning, Mike and Angel headed out the front door of the house with canteens in hand. Though summer was nearing, it was lucky, for Angel, that the entire northwest corner of Colorado was under an overcast. The week prior to this moment had been bright sunny days that had depleted the remaining snow in and around the Moffat County area. "At least it isn't cold out today," Mike said as they walked past the church, Kitty Corner, from Angel's house. Off into the distance, towards the eastern side of Craig, rays of bright sunlight could be seen piercing through the billowy clouds above. "I know," Angel responded, "it's nice out here." Then, as Angel pulled his hand out of the pocket of his black leather coat, a pack of Camel cigarettes fell out of the pocket and onto the ground. "Why do you have cigarettes in your pocket?" Michael asked as he stopped to bend over and pick them up for his friend. When he picked up the partial pack, a single cigarette fell out and landed on the ground. Quickly, Mike swooped back down to pick the single cylinder-shaped object off of the ground. "Well," Angel said as he took a hold of the single cigarette, "because, sometimes I smoke." And, Angel continued as he placed his hand into an inside pocket of his coat, "Sometimes, I smoke this stuff too." Pulling his hand back out of the leather coat, he held a clear plastic bag that had clumps of greenish plant-looking material packed into one of the corners of the bag. "What's that stuff?" Mike asked as he reached over towards the clear bag. Holding on to the bag, Michael opened it and then sniffed the contents. The aroma smelled good to the 6-year-old. "It's called marijuana. And, later, once we're on the Sandrocks, you can smoke some with me," Angel explained. "What does it do?" Mike asked as he balled the bag back up and handed it to Angel. The boys were now walking away from the road and into waist-high weeds that separated the Sandrocks from the road. "It gets you real high," Angel said as he reached into the front pocket of his jeans. Then Angel pulled out a pipe made out of bone. "You see, you put the stuff in here." While holding the white object within his left hand, he pointed to a large opening on the end of the top surface. "Then you hold your finger over this hole." With this, Angel pointed at a small hole at the far tip of the pipe. "And then you inhale through this end," pointing at the end of the pipe closer to himself, "while you light the bigger hole with a lighter." After about 45 minutes worth of walking, Angel and Mike were at the highest peak of the Sandrocks. From this peak you could see almost the entire town of Craig. Right dead center of the view was the red-topped metal roofing of the Sunset Elementary School. It was about this time that Angel had pulled the bone pipe out of his pocket again. Then, after both of the boys sat down on the high peak, close to the edge, Angel pulled the plastic bag back out of his leather coat and then began to shred one of the buds with his fingers. Then, afterwards, Angel packed the bowl of the pipe with the plant material and then pulled a big lighter out of his pocket. "We'll shotgun the smoke," Angel suggested. "What does that mean?" Michael asked as he watched his friend light up the end of the pipe. While Angel burned the contents, he inhaled the smoke out of the end of the pipe closer to himself. Then, after it appeared, to Mike, that Angel had held his breath, with the smoke still in his lungs, he exhaled moments later. "That means that, when I inhale the smoke, I'm gonna then blow it into your mouth while you inhale it. Then, once I've blown it all into your mouth, you hold your breath as long as you can, without exhaling, and then you blow it out. And then, we just keep doing that over and over." As Angel finished his sentence, he had an odd smile on his face. After about a half hour, of which both of the boys were laughing at each other, both of them decided that it was time to get up and continue on with their walk. "I'm hungry," Mike said as he stood. "We should have brought some." In mid-sentence, Michael lost his balance as he began to stumble forward. "Mike! Watch out!" Angel suddenly yelled. Yet, before Angel could catch Michael, his friend was airborne and heading straight down. As fast as Angel could, he dived off of the Sandrock ledge, like jumping off of a diving board. Speeding as fast as he could, Angel passed Michael's descending body and then turned, just before hitting the ground, to head upwards, just under Mike, and then caught his friend within his arms. Then, as they both reascended, to the top of the sandrocks, Angel held Mike's neck, just below his own nose, as they then began to land firmly on the ground. "Now, that was a close call," Angel announced. Then, as he allowed Mike to stand up, onto his own feet, Angel quickly found that his friend was unconscious. "Michael! Mike!" Angel yelled. Then, after setting Michael on the ground, in a supine position, Angel quickly found where he had accidentally bitten his friend on the left side of his neck. "Oh no!" Angel thought to himself, I've infected him." Instantly Angel found himself to not have any easy answers for his own actions. He knew that the infection of his friend wasn't something that would easily be swept under a rug. He knew that he couldn't uninfect Michael, and he knew that he had to make a quick choice. None of which would reverse the situation at hand. As Angel still kneeled beside Michael, beside a clump of tumbleweed and a patch of cactus, he then forced his arms under his friend's body, like a forklift, and then stood as he looked way off, into the distance, beyond Craig. Holding Michael's body tight to his own, Angel then shot up straight into the sky, while still in a standing position, as he simultaneously screamed, at the top of his lungs, at the entire world that Angel felt had dealt him a bad hand in life. For many miles, into all directions, from Angel's and Michael's location, it had seemed that every living creature, human and inhuman, had heard and then paused to the loud single shrill of a high-pitched scream. Rather, if it was a couple squirrels playing on a tree branch, a child riding his bike, or an officer, on the furthest reaches of the county, that had someone pulled over, for a moment, life within Moffat County paused as the single scream echoed off of rock walls and down each valley. Rising to just under the base of the clouds, Angel could see the entire county as he continued to hold Michael. It was then, at this elevation, that Angel saw a high peak almost directly east from him. Flying towards that peak, Angel had hoped that perhaps this wouldn't be a peak that he had left human remains on before in the past. Coming in real close to the peak, Angel slowed down his descent, and then softly landed on the rocky surface firmly on both feet. About 20 feet away from where Angel had landed, there was a single tree with a patch of low weeds below it. Walking over to this tree, with Michael still in his arms, Angel stood there for a moment as Mike had opened his eyes and looked up to him. "What happened, Angel?" Mike asked in a quiet tone of voice. "Well, you accidentally fell off the ledge of the sandrocks, Mike," Angel said as he allowed his friend to stand onto his own feet. "So, where are we now?" Michael asked as he shook a couple of wrinkles out of his shirt. It was also obvious that Mike was still affected by high levels of THC in his system as he wobbled. "We are on the peak of a mountain far away from Craig," Angel said, Because, when I caught you, Mike, so that you wouldn't die from hitting the bottom, I accidentally bit you." Angel was looking down to the ground, but now Angel looked into Mike's eyes. "You're a vampire now too, Michael." Though Michael was only 6 years old, and then going on 7 in another 7 months, he knew exactly what Angel was saying to him. In the past, since he had become friends with Angel, he had often dreamed of becoming a vampire just like his friend. Now, however, he was instantly aware that he couldn't just go home to his parents. He also knew that he couldn't just not go home either. He knew instantly that him and Angel were in a bad moment in their lives that could obstruct their ability to continue being friends. "Angel," Mike said as he looked up into his friend's face. "No matter what happens, you will always be my best friend. And there is nothing in this world that can change that." "I can't take you home, Michael," Angel interrupted. "I screwed up." "We'll work around it, Angel," Michael said in what seemed like an extremely mature train of thought for his age. "There will be a lot of questions being asked by my family, and then the police, as they will know that you were the last one with me. We will get through it, and then soon, we'll come up with something to fix everything. For as normal as things can get for a vampire. Soon, we'll be back to some sort of normalcy." It had seemed, to Michael, that he had almost witnessed his best friend break down as he was obviously scared of a possible change within their friendship. "Hey Angel," Mike said as he stood forward to his friend, "let's smoke some more of that stuff that you have, and then you go find some food for us. Then, later, you report me missing. This will make the best impression onto my parents." Just as Michael said, once the two of them were stoned out of their minds, Angel left his friend behind to find food. While doing so, Angel decided that he would wait until about 10 o'clock that night to call over to Michael's home. With this call, he would ask to speak to Mike, like as if he thought that Michael had gone home earlier that day. All that he had to do is make sure that he crossed every T and dot every I as their plan fell into place. A plan of which still hadn't had an ending. Hours later, at exactly 10 o'clock, Angel picked up the phone and called Michael's parents. "Hello," Tina said as she answered the phone. "Ah yeah, Tina. This is Angel, can I speak to Mike please? I know it's late, but…" "Angel," Tina said sharply, "Michael never came home. When did he leave your house?" "When we were finished climbing the sandrocks this morning, he went directly home as I went to my house. We split up at the church." At first, Angel only heard silence on the other end. Moments later, however, he heard Tina cover the mouthpiece of the phone as she then spoke to Bill. "Hey Angel." Bill's voice suddenly spoke. "When did you guys get back?" "About 10 o'clock this morning." "About 12 hours ago," Angel said as he chewed on his bottom lip. "Well then, Angel. I want you to please either come over here or stay there near your phone. Because Michael never came home this morning?" "Okay. How about I tell my family what's happening and then I'll be right over." "Good Angel. We'll be waiting for you," Bill said and then hung up the phone. Just as Angel said that he was going to, he told Malachi, Ronnie, and Eddie, whom were all about to head over to the apartments, for their family day, about Michael missing. Then, without any further ado, he headed across the street to the Hall's residence. Before he reached the house, he had hoped, to himself, that it wouldn't take long because he wanted to go and be with Michael, whom was all alone on that mountain peak. The last place in the world that a young child should be with Mother Nature's furry pets. Overall, Angel knew that this would be a long night for him and Michael. Just as Angel reached the front porch of the house, Tina opened the door to let him in. As he entered the kitchen, Angel found that Mr. Hall was talking to the police on the phone. While Bill continued to speak, he simultaneously reached towards Angel and then rested his hand on his shoulder. Moments later, after Bill gave the police department their house address, he then hung up the phone as his hand remained on Angel's shoulder. "Now Angel, are you absolutely sure that Michael headed home?" the older man asked. "Yes sir," Angel said quietly, "we walked a lot this morning and so he was tired. I had assumed that he was gonna take a nap." Pausing, as Angel then looked at Tina, he then continued, "I figured that, by the time that 10 o'clock rolled around, that would be a good time to see if I could spend the night with him this time." As Angel stopped talking, he could see Tina's eyes watering up. Then, when it had seemed that Bill had just gotten off of the phone with the police, a city patrol car pulled into their driveway just as another pulled up in front of the house. Seconds later, 4 officers were standing on the porch with Tommy leading the way. "Come on in," Tina said as she opened the screen door for the men. Moments later, everyone, including Angel, Justin, and Billy, were all in the living room answering different questions that seemed to all have been repeat questions twisted around to sound like a new question. And, for some reason, most of the questions were directed towards Angel. "Hey Angel." Tommy spoke up, "How about you come with me outside for a couple of minutes? I'd like to talk to you one-on-one for a little while." "Okay," Angel said as he stood up from the couch. With his eyes wide open, he walked right past Tom and then on out the door. "What's up?" Angel then asked. "Let's get into the car and talk. Just so no one hears our conversation." Then, walking to the passenger's side of the patrol car that was parked in the driveway, Tommy then unlocked the door and then opened it for Angel to get in. Moments later, Tom climbed into the driver's seat as he immediately started the motor. "We're leaving?" Angel questioned in shock. "No." Tommy responded, "The air conditioner doesn't work without the motor running. Besides that Angel, we've got much more important things to worry about right now. Now tell me, where is Michael?" Tommy spoke softly as he looked Angel directly in the eye. Also, Angel knew that Tom was very serious. I, Tommy." Angel stuttered out his response. "Angel. Tell me." With these words, Angel bowed his head as he remained silent. Then, reaching over to Angel, Tommy then rested his hand on the back of his neck as he seemed to massage his spine with his fingertips. "Tell me this then. Is he alright?" Looking to his left, Angel made eye-to-eye contact with Tommy as his eyes had began to water. Yes. As his eyes watered, his nose had also began to run. "He is alright?" With his response, Tommy then pulled on Angel, to bring him over to his lap. While they both then sat behind the steering wheel. Then, as Tommy turned Angel's small body around, to where they were facing one another, Angel rested his head over Tom's shoulder as he sat on the lower half of the steering wheel. Like this, Angel lightly cried. "Is Michael safe right now?" Tom whispered, still not knowing where the 6-year-old is. "Only if I get back out to him soon," Angel said as he inhaled deeply in an attempt to clear his nostrils. "He's all by himself." Then, as Angel paused for a moment, he pushed himself off of Tom enough to look him in the eye. "Tommy. Shh." Tom interrupted, "I want you to go, right now, and be with him, Angel. Something tells me that you've got his best interest in your heart right now. Sometime tomorrow, however, I want you to tell me what's going on. Alright?" "Okay," Angel said as he then wiped his eyes dry with his hands. "Thank you, Tommy." "You're welcome, buddy," Tom said as he then gave Angel another hug. Holding on to that hug, Tommy then lightly kissed Angel on the temple. "I'll come up with some sort of an excuse as to why I let you leave. You just take care of your friend." Then, with that said, Tommy popped open the door and then watched as Angel walked into the nearby shadows and then shot straight up into the dark skies. It had been over an hour since the sun had dropped below the western horizon, probably closer to an hour and a half. Sitting down, with this back against the only tree, that would prove that this high peak wasn't totally dead, Michael looked up into the night sky as the moon shined partially through the broken clouds. If it was cold, Mike didn't feel it as his mind jogged through the ups and downs of his new being. Looking to one star and then to the next, as the clouds revealed them one by one, Mike was hardly aware that Angel was setting down onto the rocky surface just 20 feet away from him. "I'm here, Michael." Angel thought clearly to his new vampire friend. Turning his head, Michael saw Angel approaching him, out of the darkness, just after sensing his voice echoing through his mind. "How did everything go?" Michael asked as he stood up. "Well, to put it lightly, there's a missing 6-year-old child, and that kid's parents, and the police department, are very worried about the situation." Approaching Mike's side, Angel wrapped his arms around him, as he too was worried. "Say." Michael spoke up, "What do you call that stuff that we were smoking earlier?" With his question, a smile had also crossed his face as the day's stress had nearly taken its toll on both of the boys. "Marijuana, as I said earlier, 420, or just weed," Angel answered as he still held an arm over his friend's shoulder. Then, as Angel's attention narrowed down to the smile on Michael's face, he too smiled as he simultaneously reached into his pocket and pulled out that plastic bag and bone pipe. Once Angel had the two items in his hand, he noticed Mike's smile instantly grow. Even for a 6-year-old, you know something good when you see it. After Angel quickly filled his pipe and then began to burn it, you could nearly see Michael begin to drool as the aroma swept past his nose. Then, after 3 shotgun hits from Angel, Mike looked at his friend, with an odd look on his face. "Let's call it peace." "Dude," Angel said as he put his arm back over Mike's shoulder. "You need some more of this." Then instantly, puckered up his lips, as he prepared to give his friend another shotgun hit. After about a half hour, Mike looked at Angel, as he still wore his smile. "I'm starving, Angel. Let's find something to eat." "Well then, take my hand and then we'll go get something to eat," Angel said, and then together, both of the boys lifted up off of the rocky surface. "Let's find a McDonald's." "Not ours in Craig," Mike said with a sober tone in his voice, "we'll be." "No. We'll go elsewhere," Angel interrupted. "Like Salt Lake City, Phoenix, or Los Angeles." "That's a long ways from home," Michael said. "Not for us. In fact, how would you like to see the sun rise out of the west?" Angel asked as they sped up. Soon the boys were moving fast enough to cause clusters of light, down below, to veer past them like as if they were just shooting stars. Then, just as Angel had said, the sun began to slowly rise just as the boys began to slow down. Then, just as they were above a large town, the two lowered themselves down behind a large building, close to a street sign that read, Catalina Street. "Where are we?" Mike asked. "We're in Los Angeles, California," Angel said as he looked at his watch, "and the McDonald's is that way." Pointing to the intersection, up ahead of them, Angel could see that Michael was still stoned off of his ass as he then placed his arm back over his shoulder. "How are you feeling, Mike?" Turning his head back, to look at Angel, he just slowly opened his mouth and, "Peace. I'm feeling peace." With this, Angel decided that he had better check to make sure that there weren't any cops inside of the restaurant. As they now walked past a large plastic sign with the golden arches illuminated on it. Once the boys knew that there wasn't any police in the restaurant, they had sat down together at a table away from the register counter. "Where am I gonna sleep tonight, Angel?" It seemed, regardless of how high Michael was, that he was still scared as the question was a very sobering subject. "I'll keep you at my house for sleep time. Probably in one of the downstairs bedrooms. That way, you'll be warm and not at the bottom of the food chain on some mountain peak. Then, while I'm dealing with your parents, and the police, I'll take you back to that same place with some food." "Something else, Angel," Mike said as he placed his sandwich back on the tray. Then, as he rubbed the sides of his head, he continued, "I keep hearing my parents' voices in my mind. It's like the same way that I heard your voice when you came back to get me earlier. It's called ESP. It's a way of communication between vampires. All you have to do is think about one of us, and then we'll understand the thoughts just the same as spoken words. Haven't you ever noticed that when you come over to see if I can spend the night at your house, that I'm already out of bed?" With this revelation, Mike's eyes opened wide, as he then picked up his double quarter pounder to continue eating. As 8 o'clock rolled around, the following morning, a little after Eddie, Ronnie, Belinda, Malachi, and Nicole had gone to bed, Angel quietly slipped back out of the room and then downstairs to get Michael. It had been a long night for the two of them, being that neither of them had slept the day before. Part of the particular day's plans, however, as Angel planned to get back with Tommy, was for Michael to sleep up on that mountain peak. Then later, after Angel's time with Tom, Angel would return to the mountain peak to either stay there with him or to take Michael elsewhere. As to this point, in Michael's life, it was only good luck, for Angel, that the weather, over northwest Colorado, included a lot of overcast, blocking out the deadly UV rays from the sun. Now, after leaving Mike safely inside of a sleeping bag on top of that high peak, Angel raced back to Craig. At exactly 8:30, after calling Tommy on the cell phone, Tom pulled into the driveway, with the patrol car. To help protect Angel from the possibility of the sun finding its way out from behind the clouds, they would then continue to discuss the situation over Michael. "All right, Angel." Tom began just as soon as he put the car into drive, to head back down Finley Lane. "You've gotta tell me what is up with Michael. And that includes telling me exactly where he is too." Angel knew that rather if he liked it or not, that he would end up having to give an answer to each of Tommy's questions. Tom wasn't just an officer that he could personally dispose of, like he had in the past with other officers. Tommy was also a vampire, with the same powers as himself. "When Michael and I went up to the Sandrocks yesterday morning," Angel began, "he had slipped and fell off of the ledge." As these words came out of Angel's mouth, Tommy turned his eyes off of the road as he was turning left onto Interstate 40, to look at Angel, "But I caught him before he hit the bottom," Angel continued. "And then, as I was bringing him back to the top of the Sandrocks, I accidentally bit him." "And then you got too scared to bring him back," Tommy interrupted. With a nod of Angel's head, Tom now understood the fears bearing down onto Angel's shoulders. "You know, Angel," Tommy continued, "it's gonna be at least a couple of weeks before Michael's canines force out the ones that he has now." "But Tom," Angel counter-interrupted. "His heart rate, his body temperature, and his breathing." As Angel spoke, Tommy partially covered his face with his hand as they also pulled into the police department's parking lot. "Those are things that can't be hidden from his parents, Tommy," Angel now said in a higher-pitched voice. Why are we here at the police department? Because I've got something else that I need to talk to you about as well, Tom said as he put the car in park and then turned off the ignition. Don't worry, you're not in trouble. Seconds later, the two were headed down a flight of steps that led into the police department. Rather than turning to the right, as Angel had in the past, when visiting the police department, he followed Tommy straight ahead. Then they came to an office, on the left, a couple of steps ahead of them, and then the dispatcher's office to the right. Angel followed Tom into the office to the left. It was a small room, a desk, that Tommy immediately sat behind, and then a couple of chairs, of which Tom had pulled one closer to the desk, for Angel to sit at. Then, as Tommy pulled a drawer open, from the lower right-hand side of the desk, he pulled out an envelope, set it on the desk, and then asked Angel to open it. With a weird look on his face, Angel complied as he then pulled out a picture of a child that he recognized. His name is Jason Kalo, Tommy said as he leaned back in his chair as he clasped his fingers together behind his head. He came up missing back last September from his bus stop. As Tom spoke, he watched Angel shrug his shoulders. He was being mean and threatening your friend Angel. And, you and I both know Angel, about our predestined missions to protect the ones that we love. I'm not gay, Tommy, Angel gasped. I didn't do. I didn't say that you were gay, Angel. With this, Angel bowed his head as he just listened. Part of that love includes the love that we have for our friends. While Tommy spoke, he attempted to be very careful on how he related the meaning of love to Angel. And Angel. I'm sorry for saying that, Tommy. Angel interrupted as his eyes watered up. I didn't mean anything by. Angel, Tom said as he sat back up straight on his chair. Come here. Holding his arms out to Angel, he watched as Angel got up from the chair, and then walked over to him. Stretching his arms out towards Angel, the boy nearly collapsed into Tommy's lap as deep emotions began to pour out of him. Instantly, Tom used his foot to close the office door as an attempt to conceal Angel's pride. For about 10 minutes Angel cried quietly as Tom began to elaborate further on his thoughts about Jason Kalo. Rather, if you had anything to do with his or not Angel, you must remember the effects that our actions have onto other people around us. Please don't take innocent children. As Tom whispered into Angel's ear, he felt Angel begin to relax to his voice. I'm not going to press you any further about Jason. Just please. Don't kill any children in your attempts to protect Michael. Either let him fight his own fights, or do something that doesn't involve killing these children. Or anything that will cause permanent injury to them. Okay? Alright, Angel said quietly. How about Michael? I want you to take me to him. Tom said in a normal tone of voice. Then, as Tommy said Angel back down onto his feet, he too stood up as he put the picture of Jason Kalo back into its envelope and then placed that envelope back into its drawer that he had taken it out of. Come on. As Tommy and Angel climbed back into the patrol car, Tom was about to pull out of the parking lot when he then looked over to Angel with his foot still on the brake pedal. What direction do we need to go? About 100 miles east from here. Angel answered as he was still drying his eyes with the back of his hands. I'm keeping him up on a peak during the daytime, and then bringing him back to the house for the night? Well then, Tom said as he led the patrol car out of the parking lot, and then turning left towards Interstate 40. Then, once he had turned right, onto Interstate 40, he continued, we'll park the patrol car out at the old drive-in. From there we'll fly out to Michael. It wasn't but, maybe about 10 minutes later, that both Tom and Angel were setting foot down, on a high peak, about 50 miles east of Steamboat Springs. As they landed, Tommy saw a sleeping bag with a familiar face, laying outside of it asleep. Walking up to Michael, with Angel beside him, Tom then knelt down beside him. Michael. It's time to wake up for a moment. Tom said through ESP. Seconds later, Mike opened his eyes to see Angel and a police officer looking down to him. Tom's presence startled Michael as he immediately sat up. Slow down there, Tiger. You're all right. I'm just here to make sure that you're okay. I'm not in trouble, am I? Mike asked. Michael had a worried look on his face, as he spoke to the officer that had questioned him 3 months prior about Jason Kalo. Though that line of questioning had ended in a positive way, between himself and Officer Tom Russell, he still knew well that he was still among the missing. No. You're not in trouble. Also, Angel isn't in trouble either. Everyone makes mistakes here and there, Tom said as he remained knelt down beside Mike. I do want you to do something for me though. Tom added, I want you to stand up for me. As Michael replied to Tommy's request, Tom lightly grasped onto Mike's left wrist as he then held 2 fingers over his inner wrist. I'm checking your pulse, Mike, Tom said to show that he wasn't about to cuff the boy. Okay, Michael. Now I want you to open your mouth wide for me. As Mike immediately did as he was told, Tom then put on a rubber glove, from a pouch on his service belt, as he then inserted his right index finger mouth, with his fingers, and then Tom applied pressure to both of Michael's top canines. With this, Mike's attention then went to the officer's extended canines and then Angel's. Comparing them together, Mike could see that Angel's appeared to be sharper. So, what do you think, Tom? Angel asked after a few seconds. Well, I think that Michael will have his new teeth within the next 2 to 3 weeks or so, Tommy said as he looked at Angel. Then, as he turned to face Mike, he continued. As for you, Michael, listen to me very carefully. As you know, you are now one of us. A living, breathing vampire that relies on fresh blood for strength and life. These are vital issues, Mike, that will be hard to hide from your family and friends. Soon, you'll have canine teeth that will set you apart from others. These teeth will cause questions among others around you. Questions that must never be answered or investigated. Our silence, Michael, is our protection from those that could destroy us. Pausing, as Tommy then set a hand on Michael's shoulder, not right now, Mike, but soon, we'll have to come up with a way to integrate you back to your family. Your family loves you more than you'll ever know, and now they are scared for you as well. Do you understand everything that I've said to you, Michael? Yeah, Mike said as he looked away. Then, as he looked back to Tommy, he continued. I do have a lot of other questions about vampires though, and I also. Mike, over time, and in good timing, all of your questions will be answered. For now, however, keep all of the vampire stuff to just between us, and then do what Angel asks of you as we try to reunite you with your family. Okay? Yes, sir. Mike, you can call me Tom. As you should know by now, Angel is part of my family. Stepping back from Michael, Tommy then stood up as he looked to Angel. You guys stay out of trouble. And Angel, I want you guys to stay in contact with me. Okay? Alright. Angel answered, then took a step forward as he hugged Tommy. I'll keep in regular contact with you. Good, Tommy said as he lightly patted Michael on the shoulder. I'll see you two later then. With the end of his sentence, Tom levitated up off of the ground as he then quickly disappeared into the clouds that now laid closer to the ground than earlier. It's gonna rain soon, Angel said as the two boys still looked towards the cloud that Tommy disappeared into. With his words, Michael turned his head just enough to see Angel's face. I think that we should go and eat. Where at? Mike asked now that Angel made eye-to-eye contact with him. I don't know. Angel now bit down softly on his bottom lip. I think that it's time for you to learn about harvesting? Human. I was just gonna settle for a burger or sandwich. Pausing, as Michael thought about living a life by taking other lives, the first thing that came to his mind was, peace, Mike said suddenly in a higher-pitched voice. Let's smoke more of that stuff first. Afterwards, I'm sure that you could talk me into eating anything. This time, Angel and Michael smoked 2 whole buds worth before lifting off of the peak. Then, as they took one another's hand, they shot out into the skies that were now turning into darkness. I've got a meal for us stashed away elsewhere, Angel said as he looked at his friend. And he's still alive. With this said, as they were flying into a southwestern direction, Michael looked back into Angel's face. He's still alive. How long have you been planning for this meal? Since last month. With Angel's response, Mike's jaw about fell to the. And he's healthy and has no better purpose. As the two descended low to the ground, they were approaching an old silo, of which Michael had recognized from rides in his parents' van. And then, just as Mike and Angel were almost low enough to the ground to softly land, they came upon what looked like a cement shed, and then landed on the ground. Where the boys now stood, was at least 10 miles south of Craig, yet somewhere north of Rifle. There was no sign of life in sight as the two walked up to this small building. "Who's out there?" a voice could be heard from within. The back side of this shed was a door of which Angel was able to unlock by turning a latch that laid within a hook on the door's upper edge. Then, as the door opened, Michael could only see darkness as he had also heard something move. Then, as Michael heard a click, a light had simultaneously flickered on as a face that he recognized, then stared back at him. "Jason?" Mike gasped. At first, Michael's face was blank, up until he remembered Jason pushing him towards the ledge, close to his bus stop. With this thought, Mike began to smile. "Jason," Mike said with a smile, "how are you doing?" "What are you guys doing?" Jason asked as he instantly got scared. With the question, Angel closed the door behind him. "We just got this sudden urge of hunger," Angel said as he opened the gate of a fenced cage that the 14-year-old was in, "and you happen to be at the top of the menu." Beside his captor, Jason was also looking at another face, the face of the young kid, from his bus stop, that he was messing with, that had resulted to him being in his current disposition. Looking at the two, as they both filed into his makeshift prison, they both seemed to have been nearly drooling as their eyes reflected the light that lightly swung from the ceiling. "What are you guys doing?" Jason yelled as he ignored the older boy's statement. Then suddenly, Jason was grabbed by the older guy as he found his arm to be twisted up behind his back. With this, he was then thrown onto the floor, face down into the dirt, as he then felt the older guy on his back crushing his rib cage. "Get off of me!" Jason screamed. In instant reaction, Jason was then forced over, onto his side and then onto his back, as both of his captors now held him down. Then suddenly the bigger one of the two grasped onto the top of his t-shirt, just below the neck, and then pulled on the material hard enough to rip it straight down the center, exposing his belly and chest. Struggling more violently, in hopes to knock one of the guys off of him, Jason only found himself to be pinned down, even harder, on more sensitive pressure points, causing extreme pain to jolt through his body. "Help!" With one knee on his upper leg, just inside his right thigh, Angel held the rest of his weight onto his other knee as it was centered on Jason's right lower arm as the kid's palm faced upward. On the other side of Jason's body was Michael as he kneeled in the exact same position facing Angel. Throwing the shredded material aside, from Jason's t-shirt that Angel still held in his hand, Angel then reached down to Jason's chest, to the meaty tissues of his upper chest, just below Jason's left collarbone, and then took a hold of the skin, between his index finger and thumb, and then peeled it up off of the muscle, causing blood to suddenly rise up out of the flesh. With it, Jason began to scream as tears poured down either side of his face. Now, with blood on Angel's fingertips, he placed his fingers next to Mike's mouth. "Taste it, Michael." The use of ESP had a lot better sense of understanding. The screaming, from Jason, overwhelmed anyone's ability to hear. Just as Angel instructed, Mike licked the blood off of Angel's fingers. Then, immediately afterwards, Michael then used his own hand as a makeshift spatula to take blood off of the teen's chest. To assist Mike, Angel then stuck his fingers into the raw bear meat that he had just stripped of its skin, and dug into the meat, to the rib cage, as he then ripped a small portion of bloody flesh off of Jason's chest. The intensity of Jason's screaming rose instantly. Angel was almost shocked. In the past, this had been enough to cause most people to pass out. Nothingness, Angel then brought this portion of meat to Michael's face. "Eat this, Mike." Just like before, as Michael had done with the blood, he used his mouth to take the meat from Angel's fingers. Simultaneously, it had seemed that Jason's yelling had ceased as he watched this kid eat part of his own flesh. Then, after watching the kid chew it up, he then began to scream again. Even louder. With the increase of volume, Angel then reacted by forcing his fingers through the skin of Jason's abdomen, in hopes that he would then pass away, in turn muting him. Instead, Jason still continued to scream. With this, Angel forced his hand through the mess of small intestines, and then through the diaphragm where he could feel the repetitive inflation and deflation of his lungs. And then, as Jason still stared at Angel, almost eye-to-eye contact, Angel moved his hands to just under the lungs as he grasped onto the beating heart. "In a moment, Michael. I'm gonna have something for you to take a big juicy bite out of. It's the best part of harvesting." Then suddenly, with a sudden jerk, Angel removed Jason's heart and then held it over his torso for Mike to see. Then, taking it into his own hand, like an apple, Michael opened his jaws wide, as far wide open as a 6-year-old could, and took a large bite out of it just as Jason died watching.
For those of you just tuning into CCMC Radio, local, county, and state police are still on the lookout for 6-year-old Michael Dale Hall out of Craig, Colorado. Michael was last seen yesterday, near the intersection of Finley Lane and 9th Street, after taking a walk with his friend, Angel Coleman, a nearby neighbor. The two took a walk up to the Sandrocks north of town. Officer Tommy Russell said, after they returned, they split up as Angel went to his home of 890 Finley Lane and then Michael Hall was supposed to go home to 887 Finley Lane. Within that 100-yard stretch, for some reason, Michael Dale Hall disappeared. Officer Russell. Do you think that this may be related to the disappearance of 14-year-old Jason Colo?
Right now we don't know, Tom responded. Jason Colo's disappearance was 3 months ago. That's too much time apart to jump to that conclusion. That's not to say, however, that it's not possible. We currently have both Jason Colo and now Michael Hall on the Amber Alert system. And for any of you that don't know, the Amber Alert system was designed 49 years ago, in 2002, after 9-year-old Amber Hagerman was abducted. Her mother, after her daughter was found dead, then pushed, through lawmakers, to create the Amber Alert system. With this, President George W. Bush passed the PROTECT Act, of which has allowed the Amber Alert system to save many young lives. And Officer Tom Russell continued. Little Michael Hall was last seen wearing Slim Shady Ltd clothing. Blue jeans, and a white with baby blue t-shirt. He had a black with a yellow mixed nylon backpack. And, above all, the boy's family and friends miss him very much.
After Angel watched Michael eat the entire heart to himself, both of the boys, together, drank the remaining blood, out of the body cavity, where most of the internal organs once rested. Then, as Angel had Michael climb up onto his back, Angel picked up Jason's remains, within his arms, and then they left the cement shed as they immediately ascended high into the dark skies over Moffat County. Then, as fast as Angel could, they flew into the western direction up until they were over the Pacific Ocean. When they were about 100 miles west of Washington State, they let Jason's body fall into the depths of the ocean.
And welcome to your 6 o'clock news center here on WWMC 33. The top story this evening is an Amber Alert for little Michael Dale Hall out of Craig. At this moment, we'll go to Chad Hilsendigger, who is standing by at that boy's home. That's right, Donovan. We are now going on 36 hours since Michael Hall was last seen by a nearby friend. Yet there hasn't been a moment that's gone by that the small family hasn't prayed for their child to come home safely.
He's the oldest of our 3 children.
William said as the television camera focused on him.
If you have him, please just let him go. And Michael, if you hear this, you're not in trouble, just come home.
He's my best friend.
Angel said as he stood beside Mr. Hall.
I was the last one to see Michael.
Pointing towards the higher end of Finley Lane, Angel continued.
We were walking together yesterday morning and split up just at that corner. He never made it to his house.
With the end of his sentence, Angel turned away from the camera as he then buried his face into the side of Bill's chest. William responded by wrapping his arm around Angel in a hug.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Angel Coleman, a nearby neighbor that once spent most of his time with little Michael Hall. Angel, along with many others within the community, are hoping and praying for Michael's safe return. This is Chad Hilsendigger with WWMC 33, now back to Donovan Rainey. And we are all hoping and praying for Michael Hall's safe return. If you have any information to this child's whereabouts or to the whereabouts of 14-year-old Jason Colo, you are urged to contact the Craig Police Department at 1-970-555-8111, the Moffat County Sheriff's Department at 1-970-555-3351, or here at WWMC 33 at 1-970-555.
Well, what did you think about that? Angel said as he walked back into the shadows of the next-door house. Michael had waited there as they had both decided that the appearance of Angel's sympathy would make the best impression onto Michael's family. Hell. Mike responded. You all are gonna make me cry. The 6-year-old said with a smirk on his face. They had to discard Mike's t-shirt due to all of Jason's blood on it. So, as they spoke together, Michael was defending himself from what seemed like every mosquito in the state of Colorado. Well, Let's get back up to the church. We'll fly into my backyard from there, Angel said as the two weaved between the backyards heading to 9th Street. The stretch of time, between the night of Jason's death and the pre-planned date, of which Mike would go home, the 4th of July, was put into place as Michael and Angel explored deeply into their friendship. It was decided that Tommy would return Mike to his parents during, or following, an emergency room visit. With any other similar situation, this was the process of which it would take place. As with any similar situation, however, a good story, to show the reason for the disappearance, would need to be created. With this story, Michael, Tommy, and Angel would have to be able to collaborate their views. Okay. I watched you cross the street and then go into the front door of your house. At about 10 o'clock. Angel interrupted. And then, I'll say that I saw a big red van almost hit me. When I jumped out of the way, the side door opened and then someone grabbed me, pulled me inside, and then something was put over my mouth. I'll say that that's all that I remembered. No. It's gotta be more than just that, Tommy said as he scratched the side of his head with just a single finger. Add to it that when you woke up, you were trapped inside of that van. You couldn't get out for a long time. Then finally, you kicked the door hard enough to make it pop open. Then, once you were out, you began to walk until you found a road. And then, Angel cut in when Tom had paused. Someone picked you up and then let you use their cell phone. And then I called 911, Michael said as a smile grew on his face. No, Tom said. They record 911 calls. You just called the police department and asked for me. As Tommy paused, he looked Mike in the face and realized that both of his mortal canines were missing. Here, Tom said as he pulled out his wallet. Pulling out a business card, and then handing it to Michael, he then continued, remember that I gave you a card when I questioned you, at the school, about Jason Calo. Put this into your pocket. With this plan, everyone knew their role as it came time for Michael to be reunited with his family. As with any kid, Mike was really beginning to miss his family too. On top of all of that, Tommy felt very out of place, as an officer of the law, as he continued to harbor a missing child from his parents. With that, however, his biological being knew the importance of the silence into the mistake that took place when Michael fell off of the sandrocks. With this, Tommy knew that they took the right steps into protecting his family. This also meant, that right now, that he had to find and stash a big red van way out of town. Three days later. Craig Police Department, how may I help you? May I please speak to Officer Tommy Russell? A child's voice answered. Yes, you may. Please hold on a minute. It was a busy day considering the fact that it was the 4th of July. All of the patrol cars had just returned to the police department following the morning parade. Tom. The woman said as she pressed a button signaling Tom's office phone, you've got a call on line 4. Thank you, Denise, Tom said as he was then prepared to follow along with their plans for Michael. Hello. Hey Tom. This is Mike. I'm in a blue car heading into Craig. We just passed the old drive-in. Okay Mike, listen. I want you to hand the cell phone back to its owner, alright? Tom then said as he stood up from his desk to walk out. For about 20 seconds, there was then silence on the other end. Hello? A man's voice spoke up. Ah yeah, who is this? Tom asked as he began to walk out of a door towards a set of stairs going up to the parking lot. My name is Ken, who's this? I'm Officer Tom Russell with the Craig Police Department, sir, and you just picked up a young kid that was reported missing 32 days ago from our community. I am heading into your direction right now, in a patrol car, to pick the child up. Okay. Can you tell me where you are right now, sir? Tom asked as he quickly sped out of the parking lot. Ah. I'm on Interstate 40, heading into Craig, from Hayden, driving a light blue Ford Escort with my headlights on. Okay sir. Tommy interrupted, I'm heading your way with my overhead flashers running, let me know when you see me. Okay. Okay. I can do that. And then, about a minute later, the man saw, ahead of him, red and blue flashing lights. Alright Officer Russell. I see you now. Good. Just go ahead and pull over now. Okay sir? I'm pulling over right now. Moments later, Ken watched the patrol car turn around, behind him, as the officer immediately got out of the vehicle. Walking right up to the driver's side of the car, Tommy looked through the windows of the small car and saw Michael looking back at him. Tom knew well that the 6-year-old missed his parents very much. As Tom reached the driver's window, the man lowered the glass just as Tommy looked inside. "Hello, Michael. How are you doing?" "I'm all right. Am I gonna be in trouble?" Mike asked. "No. Your parents miss you very much, Mike. You're not in any trouble. Speak about the red van." Tom then continued through ESP. "Why did you disappear, Michael?" Tom asked as he watched Michael remove the seat belt while in the front passenger seat. "I was heading home, after Angel and I walked back from the Sandrocks," Michael said as he spoke into the right side of the driver's head. "After I watched Angel walk into his house, I saw a big red van almost hit me. When I moved, the side door opened and then a man grabbed me. I must have fallen asleep, because I woke up trapped inside of the van." As Mike continued to talk, the driver placed his hand over his mouth as he listened. "Finally I broke out a window and then began to walk. When I turned onto this road, this guy picked me up." "My dear," the driver said as he looked away from Tom and then towards Michael. "Well, Michael," Tom said, "how about you come out here with me? I'm gonna take you to the hospital to make sure that you're all right. From there you're free to go with your parents." "Okay," Mike said. Then, just as he opened the passenger side door, he paused for a moment, as he looked back to the guy that picked him up. "Thank you, sir, for picking me up." "You're welcome, son," Kenneth said as he simultaneously reached over to the child, "and you take care of yourself now. Okay." With the end of his sentence, he patted the boy on the shoulder. "I will," Michael said and then climbed out of the car. "Bye." "And," Tom said as he still stood at the man's window, "his parents will also be very thankful for your help." "Well, he's just a little kid," the guy said. "I couldn't just let him walk alone on this busy road. He could have gotten hurt." "What's your full name, sir?" Tommy continued as Mike now stood by his side. "I'm Kenneth Jekyll Jr. I'm visiting from Alpena, Michigan," the guy said just as Tom reached in to shake hands with him. "Well, sir," Tom continued, "I'm gonna make sure that his family knows who found him. I can guarantee you that they'll be very thankful." Moments later, both Tom and Michael were in the patrol car as they sped to Craig City L1. "Go ahead, L1. Be advised that I have Michael Dale Hall on board and I am en route to the hospital emergency room. Please contact the hospital for me and TX his parents and have them meet me at the hospital. 10-4 L1. City clear at 0912. L3 to L1. Go ahead, L3. Are you serious? 10-4. City L1. Be advised that I'll be code 3. 10-4 L1. City clear at 0913. City L3. Be advised that I'll also be code 3 to the hospital. 10-4 L3. City clear at 0913. City L2. Be advised that I'll be en route to the Hall residence, code 3, to pick up the parents. 10-4 L2. City clear at 0913. F96 to all units. Be advised that I want the entire intersection of Finley Lane and 9th Street shut down. Chief Chuck Hibby's voice suddenly sounded. Also, I don't want anyone, outside of the Hall family and law enforcement, to have any movement between the house numbers 885 and 889. City F96. Be advised that I want county backup at this time and also, be advised that I'll be 10-8 and en route to the Hall residence code 3 in my PV. 10-4 F96. City clear at 0914. Even Tommy was shocked at the instant response from the entire police department. Though his passenger was only 6 years old, he too seemed very surprised as his eyes seemed ready to pop out of his head. With his mind on the radio, Michael had almost lost his balance in his seat, as Tom turned the wheel sharp to the right. Then, just as fast as they had slowed down for that turn, Mike instantly found himself pulled deep into his seat as Tommy accelerated up to about 50 in a 25-mile-per-hour zone. With it, the car's siren echoed off of each and every structure that they passed. And then, with a quick step on the brake, They were pulling into the ambulance entrance of the Memorial Hospital. "Well, hello there, Michael," a doctor said just as Tommy and Mike walked in through the outside doors. Michael didn't recognize the doctor, and so, in response, tightened his distance next to Tom. "I'm Dr. Viegel and I would like to make sure that you're all right. This way, you can go home to your parents. Okay?" The older man said as he bent over forward to talk to the child that was now hiding behind the leg of the police officer. "All right," Mike answered as he looked up to Tommy for approval. Tom then lightly rested his hand on Michael's shoulder as to guide the 6-year-old out from behind his leg. "It's all right, Mike," Tom said, "he won't hurt you. I'm friends with your mom, Michael," the doctor continued. "She works with me here at the hospital." With this said, Mike then took a hold of the doctor's hand as the man held it out to him. Allowing Dr. Viegel and Michael to walk ahead of him, Tommy followed close behind as they immediately entered into the emergency room. Soon, just before they were hidden behind the heavy solid wooden door, Tom saw one of the county sheriff deputies walk into the hospital. "Is this for real, Tommy?" "Yep," Tom said, and then held the door open for the deputy so that he could see with his own eyes. "I didn't think that we would find him, Al." "Nobody thought that we would find him, Tom," the deputy interrupted as the two walked into an examination room just behind Michael and the doctor. "Thank God that we did, though," the man said just as the 6-year-old was lifted up onto the examination room gurney. Then, before the door was closed, other law enforcement officials could be heard walking into the emergency room. With this, the deputy stepped back out of the examination room as Tommy kept Michael in his sight at all times. "L2 to L1. Tom's radio sounded loudly. "Go ahead, L2, Tom said as he simultaneously turned down the volume of his radio. "Be advised that I have the kids' parents on board and then headed to your location. City L2. Be advised that I have 2 ride-alongs on board and en route to the hospital. 10-4 L2. City clear at 0921. City L3. Be advised that I'm at the hospital. 10-4 L3. City clear at 0921. Not only did the police department and sheriff's department have the northern half of Finley Lane shut down, as they now awaited, with local media, for Michael and his parents to return, there was now also at least about 15 to 20 officers including local, county, and state at the hospital as well. Through this, however, Tommy had decided, on his own, that the child would stay under his own personal wing. Then, just about 5 minutes later, Mike's parents were at the hospital as well. City L2. I'll be out at the hospital with the kids' parents. 10-4 L2. City clear at 0926. Within just moments, William and Tina were both in the examination room with their son. There, through many shed tears, that part of the small family reunited. Both, Billy and Justin, were left at the house, with Police Chief Chuck Kibbe, so that William and Tina could have a moment of one-on-one with their oldest son. During the time in the hospital, Michael had learned, or at least heard, from his parents, that his friend, Angel, had been over several times to see if any updates had risen in his whereabouts. With this being said, Tommy was even surprised that the two boys had crossed every T and dotted every I.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Chad Hilsendigger, live with your WWMC 33 television, at the top of Finley Lane, as we await for the arrival of 6-year-old Michael Dale Hall, who was picked up this morning, by a Michigan resident named Kenneth Jekyll just east of Hayden. With us here on this beautiful morning, just outside of this yellow police line, is Angel Coleman. The longtime best friend to the 6-year-old that was listed as missing exactly 32 days ago after arriving back to Craig after a walk, with Angel, up to the Sandrocks, behind me here. Angel, can you tell us how you feel right now, as we wait on the arrival of your friend?
I'm excited. I think that Michael's family and I are the only ones that didn't give up hope that he would arrive back at home safely. I couldn't be more excited than what I am right now.
You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, our entire community is excited about the news that in just seconds from now, that we will in fact see one of the county's most talked about children turn onto Finley Lane as he is being escorted by a fleet of 19 patrol cars. Ladies and gentlemen, that is 3 times the amount of patrol cars that participated in today's 4th of July celebration. And this number of patrol cars doesn't include the nearly 20 patrol cars involved in this barricaded section of town as we speak. That's right, Chad. Anchor, Donovan Rainey, spoke up. Along with this, every other news channel, from CNN to Fox, is tuning into this reunion of little Michael Dale Hall. Ladies and gentlemen. Chad counter-interrupted just as the cameras suddenly pointed towards the foot of Finley Lane, as a long line of patrol cars, with their lights flashing and sirens wailing, turned into Finley from Interstate 40. Here comes the motorcade right now. On either side of the road, hundreds of spectators were lined up on the curb as they all gazed at the sight. "Oh, look at this," Chad said as the camera focused on all of the people. "This has got to be the biggest event in Craig's history, folks."
As the reporter paused, the camera focused on two patrol cars that were blocking the road as they began to move so that the fleet of patrol cars could move into the restricted area. "Hey Angel," a deputy said, within view of the camera, as he approached the reporters, "come on with me, buddy. You should be here with Michael's family." As they neared their house, from the back seat of the second patrol car in line, William, Tina, and Michael were all elated at the sight of hundreds of people lined up on either side of the road. Then, as two other patrol cars, of which one was a Colorado State Patrol car, moved out of the center of the road so that they could get through, they quickly found that only officers were beyond that barricade. "Just hold on guys," Tommy said over his shoulder, "I wanna pull right up into your driveway so that you're close to the door." Just as Tom said this, he noticed that a deputy had Angel beside him at the door of the Hall's home. Then, just as they pulled into the driveway, everyone could see Chuck Kibbe, with Billy over his shoulder, and Justin beside him, step out onto the porch. Just as Tommy put the car into park, about a dozen officers walked up to the patrol car as one of them opened the door to the back seat. "Welcome home, Michael," the stranger said as he looked at the child in the rear seat as he sat between his parents. Moments later, Tom was standing beside the officer. "Folks, I think that it would be best if you went directly into the house. There are a lot of people that would like to see your son." "Also," Chief Chuck Kibbe said as him and the younger two children approached the car, "there is a lot of press out here too. I would recommend that you invite at least one news camera, with a reporter, to make an interview." "Is WWMC one of them?" Bill asked as he still sat in the car. "Yep," the chief answered. Simultaneously, Justin began to crawl over his dad, from the outside of the car, in attempt to reach his big brother, of which he had missed terribly. "Well, how about, instead of heading straight in, we do a quick press conference, or interview with only WWMC off of our porch? That way, we can get it done and over with right now. That way, everyone, out here, can see Michael as well." "Okay. Let's do it. But first..." Chuck paused as he looked over to Tommy. "Go over there." As he spoke, he pointed at the intersection of Finley and 9th, "and get WWMC over here before we have them get out of the car." With that said, Tommy quickly ran out of the yard to comply with his boss's directions.
Ladies and gentlemen. This is Donovan Rainey again, here at WWMC 33 Television. We're going back live to the front yard of Michael Dale Hall's home, where we have been given the exclusive welcome home interview with whom is being dubbed as Craig's child. That's right, Donovan. Just moments ago, half of our nation watched as 6-year-old Michael Dale Hall was given an escort by one of the largest police processions in Colorado's history. And this was Craig's largest police procession in history. Right now, ladies and gentlemen.
The video goes from earlier's escort to the side of the Craig Police Department's patrol unit, as the rear seat door is open as Michael sits just on the other side of his father. Here is Michael himself. For a moment, the camera backs away as Mr. Hall picks his son up into his arms. Still within the patrol car, is Mrs. Hall holding her son Justin. Once outside of the patrol car, as he's still within his father's arms, Michael turns his head, away from his father, as he looks into the crowd of officers within his yard. Beyond his yard, just beyond the police barricade, Michael could see, what seemed to him, the whole world looking back at him. What he didn't realize, however, is that, through the camera, that was right in front of himself and his father, is that most of the people, throughout the world, was now looking at him.
"Michael, welcome home,"
Chad Hilsendigger said as he put a microphone close to the kid.
"How are you feeling today?"
Good.
The 6-year-old said as he smiled, showing 2 teeth missing.
"Michael, where have you been for the last month?"
This information, Chief Chuck Kibbe interrupted, needs to be briefed with the investigators first.
Okay. Michael, are you happy to be home this morning with your family?
Yes. I'm very happy to be home. I've missed my mom, dad, and my brothers very much.
Well, Michael, as you can see, everyone in this town misses you very much, and we are all very happy, just as your parents are, that you're healthy and, more importantly, alive.
Thank you.
Michael said, and then turned his head away from the camera as he laid his head over his father's shoulder.
That was Michael Hall, ladies and gentlemen. And this has been WWMC 33 News. I'm Chad Hilsendigger, and I thank you for tuning into our station today as our nation got to see a happy conclusion to the missing 6-year-old. Now, back to Donovan Rainey. Thank you, Chad. And, once again, this was Craig's child that was found early this morning by 70-year-old Kenneth Jekyll Jr. out of Alpena, Michigan, whom it happened to be just driving through Colorado these early hours.
Through most of the first evening of Michael's return, William, Tina, Justin, and Billy just watched as their oldest son settled back into his home. Only Mike and Angel knew the truth to the past month's worth of events. Also, only Mike and Angel knew of the biological influences to the blood with the home. Soon, however, there would be visual differences that would set Michael apart from the rest of the family. "Hey Mike," Bill said as he pulled out a camera from a kitchen drawer, "Smile buddy." As Michael looked up to his father, Angel simultaneously looked up as well, just as the camera flashed blindness to both of the boys. Moments later, as Bill pulled the device away from his face, he looked at the digital image. Seconds later, Tina too looked at the picture from over her husband's shoulder. "Michael's teeth are gone," she said quietly. Instantly, as the words came out of her mouth, Mike then turned his head back around. Ah, Mike thought to himself. Angel. They saw my canines missing. Just as the thought left his mind, his mother was kneeling down beside him with her hands on his shoulders. "Honey," Tina said quietly, "let me see your mouth." Then, knowing that he had no choice, he faced her as he smiled once again. "You're missing your teeth, honey." "That happened to me too, when I was 6 years old," Angel said as he watched Tina look into her son's mouth. As he continued to watch, he saw her insert her right index finger into the gap that once held Michael's left canine tooth. "Well, normally you don't lose 2 teeth within a month period of time," Tina said as she felt the socket of Mike's gum line. Then suddenly she pulled her hand away from her son, with a quick jerk, as she then inspected the tip of her finger. As she then squeezed her finger, with her left hand, a single drop of red blood formed a little red bead. And, normally they're not this sharp when they begin to grow back in. Looking at his friend, Angel just stared as he watched Tina examine the other gap within her son's mouth. Moments later, just as before, she found her finger bleeding as shock seemed to be written all over her face. Maybe a third time would be the charm. Angel spoke softly. With his words, Tina seemed to have paused her movement without even looking back at Angel. As Michael continued to look towards Angel, his eyes seemed to glow red, causing his mom to appear to have possibly paused to the eerie appearance within her 6-year-old. Then, looking as if she was going to respond to Angel's statement, she turned her head to find that same reddish glow within his eyes as well. Stunned, she froze without saying a word. Filled with instant confusion, and perhaps fear of the unknown, Tina suddenly looked back towards her son again as he now seemed to be staring back at her. With another quick look back to Angel, Tina could see drool running off of one of his extended canines. With it, a streak of blood down the other. "Hey Mom," Michael said suddenly, causing his mother to jump. It had seemed that the child had magically risen to his feet as he had now grasped onto her shoulder. "I'm hungry." Then, just as instant, Angel had also seemed to have risen to his feet as he too took a hold onto her opposite shoulder. And Tina. "I'm hungry as well."
This is the end of Book 5. Once again, thank you for choosing to read It's in the Blood, written by Christopher Lee Roeters. And as I said at the beginning of this particular book, there were a total of 10 books intended for this entire series. So please keep your eyes open for additional books in the future that would be part of It's in the Blood. Thank you for listening to our family saga, and God bless you.